We're so excited about SEC Media Days next week, and Jacob will be there. And Jacob's already talked on our YouTube channel about how excited he is. And the guy that's going to light it up is going to be Joe Milton. He loves the spotlight, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but he was also named as one of the most 10 intriguing players in the SEC. And I have trouble finding anybody that's more intriguing in the SEC. What the H? Brought to you by Craft Treats.
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
All right, so most intriguing players in the SEC according to On3. This appears to be in no particular order, and it's done by Jesse Simonton, who has done a fantastic job, and I really like his work. So Joe Milton is there, saying Joe Milton has spent the last 2 seasons honing his game and waiting for his opportunity to lead Tennessee's offense. Former Michigan transfer beat out Hendon Hooker for the starting job in 2021, but a minor injury and inconsistency relegated Milton to the bench. Now he's the guy and holding off Nico. And he's also a guy that, let's face it, it would be understandable if he had some doubts after the way things shook out in that Ole Miss game where he jumped out of bounds. It would be understandable if he had some doubts after the way Hendon Hooker played last year and had some questions about just how good he can be in this offense, because he did get benched, be it inconsistencies or injuries. So is there good pressure or bad pressure for Joe Milton? I ask you that question, Caleb, and then we want to get into what players are actually more intriguing than Joe Milton. I can't think of any, and it's brought to you by Craft Treats. CraftTreats.com has all kinds of treats for your pets, but it has the chill pills with the CBD derivatives that will help with your pet's digestive issues, that will help with your pet's arthritis issues, and also can help with anxiety issues. So every once in a while, I'll pop a chill pill with a CBD derivative. No, I don't, but I do give it to my pet. And you go to crafttreats.com, use the promo code off the hook, get 20% off. Please support our sponsors and advertisers. That's why we are here. So is this good pressure, bad pressure for Joe Milton? And I'll tell you why I feel strongly one way or the other, Caleb.
I think it's good because even though I do think he panicked in that Ole Miss game, I think largely Joe Milton is showing a level of embracement of the pressure that's been put on him this year. It just seems like Joe Milton is much more, ever since, and I look at these things. We talked about this, that you even told me based on reporting you had heard. Joe Milton got kicked into high gear when Nico Iamaleava showed up on campus. Not that he wasn't in high gear before, but that he felt the pressure when Nico Iamaleava arrived. Well, how did he respond to that pressure? He held on. He balled out in the spring. He was clear-cut the best quarterback in spring practice. Didn't panic at all. That, to me, is just the first sign of really standing out that, okay, when there's any type of pressure put on Joe Milton, he embraces it. I mean, we've seen quarterbacks in the past that, the minute pressure's on them in any sort of way, they fold. I mean, they collapse. I don't want to call him out, but when Eric Ainge was feeling Rick Clausen behind him, he melted down in 2005 and did not handle that well at all. And
I would blame the coaches and the way they handled it more than Eric. But either way, you're right. The way they handled it didn't sit well, and it shouldn't have with either quarterback. I thought they just that's as bad a coaching year as I've seen up close. I thought they had both quarterbacks by the middle of the year mad about the way they handled it. If there had been a third quarterback, he'd have been mad too, because it was a total fiasco. So who is more intriguing than Joe Milton on this list? And when you look at the list, I think you have to give the nod to Carson Beck because he's taken over for a national champion. And he's replacing a Stetson Bennett. I can go with that. But here are some of the intriguing guys that are on this list. And one would be defensive lineman Mason Smith with an extra A. So it's Mason Smith of LSU. Wide receiver Malik Benson out of Alabama. I think he's big time because I don't think they ever got their receiver production where they wanted it last year. Will Rogers, Mississippi State. I think Will's very good. I don't know what happens with the unfortunate passing of Mike Leach. Rest in peace. But I could see Will Rogers actually taking a dip because I think Mike Leach was so good with quarterbacks. And speaking of quarterbacks, Devin Leary of Kentucky was one of the most intriguing players. Kentucky could actually be better this year at the quarterback position because I know a lot of people knocked Will Levis, didn't like him in general, but he dealt with a lot of injuries. Cam Jackson, defensive lineman of Florida. Quarterback Spencer Rattler is named as one of the more intriguing players. Wide receiver Luther Burton, Missouri. Running back Jarquez Hunter, who is very good at Auburn, are some of the guys that are intriguing. Out of that group, who stands out to you about intriguing?
It's very quarterback driven, but I think that and for all different reasons. Spencer Rattler, what Spencer Rattler are we going to get? Are we going to get the one that showed up the last 3 weeks of the season last year? And we don't. And there's two things. It's which Spencer Rattler are we going to get, and how good is he going to be with extremely incompetent Dowell Gaines as his offensive coordinator? Which is, to me, those are two giant questions. I mean, I'll say this: whatever you want to say about Joe Milton, there's no questions about the ability of his coaches. I mean, nobody's really questioning if Josh Heupel can get the most out of him. And I think Dowell Gaines gets the worst out of everybody. Devin Leary at Kentucky. That was a good pickup for Kentucky. And Liam Cohen is back in Kentucky. And I'm telling you, for what Kentucky does, that is the best offensive coordinator they could get. So those two really stand out to me.
I think it's Milton hands down because Travis brought this up on our message board. The whole football world knows his name and wants to see the Bazooka show. I think that's the reason he's gotten so much pub about his arm strength, and he's going to be sick of answering questions about his arm strength at SEC Media Days, but that's what separates him. I haven't seen multiple videos of Carson Beck throwing objects as far as he can. I haven't seen multiple videos about Spencer Rattler doing the same. Now, I've seen Spencer Rattler play really well, and I've seen him play really poorly. So you could argue that one. But no, I think Joe Milton's the most intriguing player on this list, and I don't think there's any question about that. Rocky Top Tom has a question. He said, considering Georgia is starting a freshie at quarterback, does our defense have the capability this year to keep us in the game? We'll ask Fred White that because it's a Football Friday with Fred, and he's already on board. We love visiting with Fred. His appearance brought to you by Allstate and Tennessee Cider Company, tncidercompany.com. Use the promo code HAT and get some free swag with any purchase. You can order cider from almost anywhere in the United States of America and know that it goes to a big ball fan and our friend Aaron Maples. Tennessee Cider Company, tncidercompany.com.